With just a day to the presentation of the 2020 budget statement, a tax expert is cautioning government against proposals by civil society groups and individuals to increase taxes on tobacco, cigarettes and others, despite overwhelming public support for such a hike. Joy News' health desk explores this further in the following report by Matilda Wemega.
Interest groups fighting against the spread of non-communicable diseases (NCDs) in the country are proposing an increment in taxes on tobacco, cigarette, alcohol and other sugar-sweetened products to increase their prices so as to make them unattractive for consumption. According to statistics, overweight, obesity, cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular and other non-communicable and chronic diseases, once considered as problems in only high-income countries, are now on the rise in low and middle-income countries including Ghana and particularly in urban settings. Evidence suggests that reducing the consumption of cigarettes and other tobacco-related products and alcohol reduces the risk of unhealthy weight gain in adults and other NCDs. The proposal, which seeks an increment in the ad valorem excise tax on tobacco, which currently stands at 175%, by at least 50% to 252% in the 2020 budget statement, has already been submitted to the Finance Ministry. Labram Musa is Programs Director for Vision for Alternative Development, the group championing this proposal.
And the WHO and other world-meaning institutions have actually recommended taxes on these commodities so that at least when you increase on this commodity, it reduces consumption. That's number one. It also reduces the poor and the vulnerable, who are mostly the target of this particular industry. It also reduces their consumption level. It also serves as a huge revenue stream for government, to finance its national health insurance. Which is currently having a lot of problems, and even many health issues that the country is currently, struggling to support. We as a group have actually met with the Ministry of Finance. We sent a proposal to them. We met them, and then we discussed and sent our proposal to them. The issue is that we have done some follow-up, but we've not been given any concrete, results as to whether our proposal read or accepted by government to increase tax on this commodity as we propose. Okay. Bearing in mind the challenges that this commodity put on the individual, especially the poor.
On the streets, Ghanaians seems divided on the matter.
I strongly believe that the health status of a nation matters much to a very strategic person. You understand? So whatever has to be done in order to ameliorate the situation, you understand, in order for the numbers of those who are smoking to deplete, you understand, I strongly believe that it's a laudable idea and we all need to support it.
Taking in alcohol is not just something we see, but it's more of an addiction, it's more of an attitude or a behavior. And if we probably want to change behavior, there are many ways of doing it, not increasing taxes. You can increase taxes though, but still people will purchase it.
Tax no koto ensa cigarette tumu but first obetuma nyesika mu ohono mo e da koboa health centers
in such a way that if the government increases tax on alcohol, some people may not be able to buy or purchase it, but others may be able to purchase. But on the other side, it might affect the business of other people. So implementing or bringing this policy on board, it wouldn't be a favorable policy. So the government have to engage the people in order to seek the ideas.
Tax expert William Owusu Dementia says the government must tread cautiously on that path.
It's a good idea, but we need to take it with caution. Okay. Now, whenever government is trying to introduce a tax handle on a product, there are critical factors the government needs to consider. We always say that the tax must make economic sense. What we mean by that is that if, for instance, you impose a tax of 50 pesos on a product, how many people can afford that particular product after imposing the tax of 50%? And if you get the number of people who can afford it, what is the expected revenue you can generate from that? So one critical factor in determining the impact or the incidence of a tax on a product is what we call the elasticity of the product. So one, government must first do that analysis, get to know that if I impose the tax on a particular product, what will be the reaction of the normal consumer? Would I get the needed revenue? Would it deter them? Or they will still continue to purchase anyway? These are analysis we need to do before we decide to go ahead and implement the tax on some of these products.
Okay, but is this something that you think is feasible?
Yes, I mean generally that's what we call a sin tax, is to prevent people from doing a particular thing that government considers to be detrimental to society. So normally you do it by either imposing what we call excise duties on them, or imposing duties on them when they are imported. Import duties are inched up on these products. But one thing we found is that the world over, these sin taxes do not really deter people. It can reduce the consumption some people make on it, but it really doesn't serve as a deterrence. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, how much money are we going to raise? Because remember, we must put systems in place to be able to, as it were, implement the tax. How much are we going to raise? How much are we going to spend to put the systems in place? Is it going to encourage smuggling and people trying to go and have a black market economy? These are all things that we need to think through in designing the policy so that we do not implement the policy and not achieve the purpose. I give you a perfect example. The luxury vehicle levy.
Sure.
We implemented it with all the fanfare, and we lost about 80%. We didn't meet about 80% of the targeted revenue. So instead of rushing to just implement it, we should take our time, consult the necessary stakeholders, do the real economic tax impact analysis, and then when we are sure that it is something that can bring us the needed revenue and serve the deterrence, we can implement it.
The government's decision will only be determined in the 2020 budget, set for presentation on Wednesday. For JoyNews, Matilda Vamagan, Accra.